Hello and welcome to Coast for this week. This is Will Schofield speaking with my co-host Oscar Allen. You are joining us on the record-breaking, trend-setting, people-pleasing podcast. That's what we are, hey Oscar?
Yeah. I think, yeah, I'd agree with all of that. First year in the podcast with Scully. For those who haven't tuned in so far, it's been a really interesting year in the whole. Probably a year none of us will ever forget, and I don't think anyone will ever forget this podcast either. We started off swimmingly.
Did we start before COVID or post? No, we started in the Gold Coast.
Yeah, on the Gold Coast.
We've had Amazon film crew. They're making a documentary. They're with us every single day with cameras and a sound team. It's going to be a good doco, I think. It covers 6 teams around the AFL this year, and we're one of them. It's going to be good to look back on.
Yeah, and I think, I'm not sure the other teams. I think Gold Coast have one as well.
Yep. Don't know the other teams.
Yeah, maybe Collingwood or something. I'm not sure.
Look, I hope it's not the Nick Nat show, because he is I think they've got a kind of a guy in each club that they basing it off. Yeah. I hope it's not the Nick Nat show. We get enough of that. Yeah,
I think you get enough of it. Obviously, he's got a great story around him, but he gets covered a lot. I think if you can get the whole culture of the team and the ride we've been on. We're only halfway through the season, and we spent 4 or 5 weeks away in a hub. We performed awfully, came back, performed really well, and judging this whole scenario of no more than 9 people in a group and the effects that has on the team and the bonding of a team, I think every club's documentary will be really interesting, and they couldn't have picked a better year to do it.
Yeah, it's halfway point of the year right now. I think, the swings in form that you're talking about, you've probably had them individually. I've had them individually. I think teams across the comp have swayed with their form. You know, Richmond reigning premier was down early. GWS probably started slower. We started slower. And there's been some teams that have really jumped out of the blocks. I think what'll be similar as to any year, the team that can be the most consistent will end up on top of the ladder and challenging to win the grand final. But I think this year, different to others, those dips in consistency are going to be across the board. I don't think you'll have one team that can just do it all year. I think changes in environment, changes in how we do things from a club perspective are going to have a big say come towards the end of the year. We're only midway through. You know, Victorian clubs are 3 weeks into a hub. You know, we cop 5 at the start of the year. The back end of the year is really going to test clubs' mentalities, I think.
Yeah, and as we've spoken on in previous episodes, we've got a pretty good run so far. Since we've been back, our fixturing's been really, really good and kind to us. But I think as you look across the rest of the competition, there are a lot of 4-day, 5-day breaks whilst flying across the country. I'm expecting our last month of football to be somewhat similar to that. So although we're obviously focused on this weekend, I feel like as a whole playing group, we're all looking into possibly what might be the future. Obviously, we haven't been informed anything else as to what we'll be doing past round 12. But it's definitely something that's a little bit of an afterthought.
So let's talk about last weekend's game here on Coast to Coast. We played the Mighty Cats. I'm a Geelong boy, so I can call them the Mighty Cats. We used to put streamers and stickers and newspaper clippings all up on my windows during the wonder years in the 90s, even though they'd never won a grand final. West Coast beat them in 92, 94, so I used to be a Cats fan. So going into that game, into the Schofield Cup, the Geelong West Coast game, I was a keen watcher. How did you see it from, let's call you a player, because I probably can't consider myself one at the moment. How did you see it from a player's point of view?
Oh, we probably started off slow, again, similar to how we've started off a lot of the tight games this year. They probably got ahead of us, and it was a pretty back and forth game early, pretty free-flowing, I thought. And then as the game got to the crux, it became a contested game, and as all tightly contested games of footy with 2 good sides, it's won and lost in the middle, and I thought we got over the top of them, and some bits of brilliance from JK at the end of the game probably got us over the line.
All right, let's wind it back a little bit. Let's see how well you can talk about us as a footy team and our game plan without giving too much away. All right, okay. It's a test for you. So Geelong came in with a specific plan. I thought watching from home, they played a certain way, and I don't think we handled it that well in the first half. Do you talk about how they were playing, and if you did you have some things to work on coming into the second half?
We did. So without going into too much detail.
There you go. It's a good cliche. Good start.
So in the first half, watching the game, I think you could tell that Geelong controlled the footy pretty well and were chipping it around, and we want to bring intensity and play with pressure as every team in the competition wants to do. And we really lifted that in the second half, and it started off with our midfielders and their contest really rose and gave us first use of the ball. And we were able to capitalise better in the second half than we were early.
Yeah, we talk a lot about forwards and backs. You're being a hybrid forward back, me being a back, but in the end, the midfield set the scene. If your mids are slightly off, whether that's attacking with the footy or defending, that really sets the scene because you lose field position, you lose the ability to be able to defend behind your ball movement. They're really the top of the pyramid. They set things off. So I thought potentially their midfield played better than ours in the first half, and the real change was the pressure our mids were able to put on, which enables our back line to be able to play the way they do, and then lets you boys in the forward line go to work. I think specifically, well publicised, Nick Nat was very good. He's probably going to beat most ruckmen when he's playing like that. And singling out a midfielder, I thought that was probably Yoey's best game of the year. When you watch, I think you can tell whether Yoey's playing well or not by his intensity around the contest and how he tackles, not how he gets the ball or breaking the lines like he does and taking big marks. Like, they're all great, but if he's playing well, his intensity is a step above anyone inside that contest. You get the same with your Fifes, your Dustin Martins, those sort of players are just elevated, and I thought Yoey did that in the second half.
Yeah, for sure. I thought it was a pretty well-rounded game from all of our midfielders. As you said, you singled out Yoey, but I thought Tim Kelly's been pretty good. Obviously, it was a big game for him. His first game against Geelong. Obviously, it's a well-followed story in terms of he was drafted to Geelong and then at the end of his first year requested to trade home. They didn't abide by that request and then...
Almost got done, I think.
Yeah, it almost got done.
Sort of like a deadline deal that just kind of didn't fall over.
Yeah, and then he was playing in the game that knocked us out of the finals last year, and then 3 weeks later came out that he was coming and playing for us. So it was really interesting dynamic.
I just send a really nice text message to him when we got that trade done because I had a little bit of a chat to him in that final, and I had a couple of things just to clear up with him, but we're all good now.
You're all good mates now?
Well, we're teammates, so it's all good. Let's go back to the start of the game. Harry Edwards debuted, the big fella, big key back. I liken him to, and it makes sense knowing now about his growth spurt. He's 20 centimetres in 2 years or whatever he's been spruiking. It's like he's too big for his body to an extent. He's got like these big feet, big long limbs, and he's a big farm kid running around out there. But I like him a lot. Yeah,
I think football-wise, he's pretty similar to... He's probably one of the best players in the competition, or best key backs in the competition, Harris Andrews. Long limbs, tough in the contest, and never takes a step back.
Looks a bit awkward.
Yeah, a bit awkward, but works.
Yeah.
But animal-wise, I see him as a Great Dane. You know when you see a puppy Great Dane with huge paws?
Yeah.
Like a big head?
Yeah, great. He's a puppy. He's a puppy.
He's a pup. But... I think he'll be a really, really good player.
Not the debut we would have been hoping for.
Nah, but I think, tell you what, he won some fans over. I think that's a big thing. He won the fans over.
How did you do that? By getting knocked out?
I just thought he was good.
Yeah, he was.
He was good and he was
good.
tough.
Good. I was just hoping you weren't saying getting knocked out wins you fans.
No.
Okay.
And then gets knocked out, gets straight back up and tries to play.
Did he? I actually saw the contest. I think something happened. Possibly went to an ad break.
They kicked the goal.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So I went to get a drink and came back and kind of I just never saw the replay, and then a quarter later he's on the bench I saw him getting the concussion test. So I didn't see him get up from that contest. So he got back up and he was trying to have a crack.
Yeah, so I was in the ruck and I was running back to help, saw the contest and thought, he might be in a bit of trouble. They crumbed it, kicked a goal from the back of the contest, and then I've turned around to Harry, who was about 5 metres away from me, and he's gotten straight up and just looked at me with these possum eyes. Like, where am I? The lights are on me, and I have no clue where I am, and tried to run to the group huddle in the back line and fell on me, and I just put my hands up and come get him, boys. He's done.
Okay. We did miss something about Tim Kelly return game to Geelong, against Geelong. How much help do you think an ex-player can give to their ex-team? Like a 1 year removed guy like Tim Kelly, how much would he be able to help our coaches and other players?
In Tim's situation, because obviously when he was at Geelong, he was a premier player for them. So I'm sure he had a lot of one-on-one conversations with the head coach. So the top 5 to 10 guys at the club or senior leaders at the club, I feel, would have really in-depth conversations with the coach, whereas younger players or guys breaking through probably don't have those conversations with the head coach.
How much, though, is he going to be able to tell us that we can't find out ourselves from watching vision?
I think only
put a percentage on it.
15%.
Okay.
And that 15% is
pretty big.
Is mindset. So he can let us in on the mindset Geelong have against us.
Oh, yeah.
Because obviously you watch the game and you can pick apart structures, plays, everything that they do on field, but you can't see what's in their head, what their mindset is against us. Obviously we played them probably 4 times since Tim was at Geelong, twice last year and twice the year before, and they beat us on all but one occasion, knocking us out of the finals, obviously, and smacking us in Geelong early last year.
Yeah.
So
I've never won a game in Geelong in 14 years. So
wow.
Yep.
I don't think many people win Geelong, to be fair.
No.
But the mindset that they have coming in against the Eagles is something I think he gave us good insight towards.
You know, they've been a good team for a good while now, 3-4 years. So it's always a great challenge for us coming up against them. And at stages we haven't been able to get it done. But, you know, that was a hard-fought victory for us on the weekend with effectively 3 players on the bench for the whole game.
Shout out to the newest bull. Shout out to the newest bull, Jakey Waterman.
What's a bull?
A bull is a backman.
Yes.
I was initiated as a bull in my first year.
Yes, and you were welcomed.
I was welcomed. It was taken off me
Yes.
at the start of my second year as I spent the whole preseason in the forward line. It was given back to me midway through the second year when Tom Barrass had a sore foot and Gov wanted to be a forward. So I went and played down back, and now I think I have allegiances to all lines.
All lines?
All lines. I
Wow.
say I'm
You're an integrator.
Yeah, I'd say I'm the only one.
You're
right
an integrator.
now. But aside from myself, Jakey Waterman.
He doesn't have a lot of allegiance to the midfield.
But no,
Can play on the wing.
On terms of on the weekend,
Yeah.
I'm the only one with all 3 lines, but
Yeah.
properly integrated into the back line. What do you say of his performance on the weekend?
Thought he was good. It's sometimes difficult to see from at home on TV, but he's got good footy smarts, Jakey. So he's able to play that, you know, high half forward role, but he's got the athletic ability to, you know, play taller than he probably is, which equates well to the back line. You got to, you know, the smartest blokes in the team in the back line. So it was only a matter of time before he found his way down there. And from all reports, he was well guided by, you know, we've got quite a senior back line, probably of all lines. Without Schofield and Jetta, probably taking a step back in seniority.
Our midfield are pretty full strength. Our midfield.
Yes. Yeah. It was the back line, but it's probably not now. We got the young brigade up, you know, playing those smaller roles, Cole, Duggan, Nelson, who are all going very well. But, you know, I thought Jakey Waterman was good. He fitted in nicely.
A interesting little moment from the game, which I don't think many people would have seen.
Yeah, definitely
seen on the telecast. Our backline help each other out at times, and Brad Shepherd, obviously honorary bull, been a bull for a long time, likes to hand over the responsibility to the new bulls. Patrick Dangerfield comes into the backline, and Shep palms him off to Jakey Waterman in his first game as a back, and Shep picks up Gary Rowan or someone else.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
And Jake, he's twitchy.
Yeah.
And he said to me after the game, I've never been as scared in my life of being embarrassed on the AFL field.
There you go. Danger is a intimidating presence when he comes forward. He's a big-bodied midfielder.
He's a big man.
You know, you've seen him on TV. He walks around, he's got his chest out, and he's a Brownlow medalist. Like, he knows he's good, which good on him. That's why he's good. He knows he's better than people. And, yeah, intimidating. Dusty Martin, same thing. Like, you're like, I don't know if I want to be one out in the cage with this bloke. That's the sort of presence he has. So, fair enough. First game, it's probably not the play you want to be matching up on.
Early in your career, did you ever, when you were playing, play against someone and at one stage be like, I'm playing on so-and-so? Because on the weekend, there was early in the game, ball in front of me, Patrick Dangerfield, tackled him, line on top of him on the ground. I thought, I've watched you for a long time and you're bloody good player.
Gary Ablett's that for me.
Yeah.
I played on Matty Lloyd early.
Ooh.
Yeah.
He kicked a lot of goals.
I think for that to happen, I'm surprised Dangerfield's one for you because, like, Danger's not, like, 34.
No.
He's 30 or 29, 30. Like, I was 18 and Lloyd was 33 probably. And so I'd watched him my whole childhood, which you probably have with Danger a little bit. I forget how young you are.
Yeah. One for me would have, if I ever played against him, Nick Rewalt would have been the one for me. He was always someone I looked at and kind of admired the way he played.
Jonathan Brown, scary man.
Jonathan Brown tormented blokes back in the day.
Yep, including me.
Best sledger of all time, Jonathan Brown?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Geelong were always good when they were winning premierships. Sorry, when I say when they were winning, when they won their bunch of premierships with the Ablett, Chapman, Johnson midfield.
Stevie J?
Yeah, that like their forward line knew they were good.
Yeah.
And they knew they would beat almost anyone. So I think good chat comes with confidence that there's no real comeback and there's no repercussion. You can say what you like. That's the best chatters. So the most successful teams are generally the most, and you kind of have to respect it when you get good chat or even chat from teams that don't have a lot to potentially go back on to sort of go, hey, like, yeah, we're going to talk the talk, but we're going to walk, we can't walk the walk. That's when you're like, come on, mate, like, zip it up. Zip it up. There's been a few of those over the years. I'll tell you that right now.
It's always good when someone's lipping you early in the game and then halfway through the fourth quarter, you're up by 10 goals. And you just remember when you said yada, yada, yada?
You can't do it.
And
you can't do it.
They don't say anything back.
You can't do it. That's why the best chatters are always the good teams because it's a bad team. Like, good on you. You're confident, but also don't lose by 10 goals and told me that I'm fat and old and bald at the start of the game. Like, yeah, I know I'm fat, old and bald. It's fine. And we just won by 10 goals. Coast to coast here, Will Schofield, Oscar Allen. We'll call it the West Coast Eagles dedicated podcast, but we cover a range of topics and we give relatively honest opinions while I feel like we have some sort of smarts about us. Like, you'd be one of the smarter blokes at the club, wouldn't you, Oscar? And modest.
Yeah. Modestly, I'd say I'm a top 10.
No, I've enjoyed it this year, about able to give some opinions, but we try not to ruffle too many feathers. We talk a little bit about the wider AFL community as well. What's been going on outside of West Coast walls? Yeah.
So one instance that's really caught my eye over the last week is Jake Carlisle playing against Sydney and Dane Rampy.
Oh, yeah.
So Dane Rampy, for those that didn't know, was probably best on 2 weeks ago and played with a broken hand. During the game, heard it early and
it's outrageous.
Really brave. Had surgery the day after the game and then played with a huge strapping on his hand, which I don't know how you could do that. It's a whole hand. It's not just a finger.
Yeah.
Like he lost his whole left hand and played on the weekend. And when there was a bit of biff on pushing and shoving, Jake Carlisle was seen punching the hand with screws and bolts in it. What are your thoughts on this? And I'm not sure where it fits on the tribunal, but I'd say he'll get a fair sanction.
I believe he's already been, because we're already into the next round, remember? So so he got a $1,000 fine down to $500 possibly.
Is that it?
Yes. So you do have an opinion on where it should have landed. Is that it? You need to be able to draw lines. You can't hit people in the head. You can't headbutt people, for instance. I think that's a good example of what you can't do. That's where our tribunal should come into play. But if you're out there, where's the line with the injuries? Yeah, he clearly had a broken hand, was wearing, looks like a cricket glove. Clearly he had, clearly that was an area. But, what about if a player has gone in with a sore elbow or a sore back and isn't strapped, but you know about it? Are you allowed to target it then? Is that because, is that okay?
Yeah, it's a good question.
I've done that. I've gone into games knowing blokes got sore ribs or sore elbows or sore shoulders, and I've targeted it. I'd do it all. If I knew about it, then I would do that. So, is that different to what Jake Carlisle did with seeing a glove and punching it? And perhaps, but maybe it's just not a good look. Is it a worse look? Him being behind the play and doing it, and the behind the goals vision showing it. Is that a worse look, or is that a better look than it's quarter time or whenever it happened and, there's 20 players around and all the cameras are focused on him? Is it a perception thing? I'm asking a lot of questions, but I'm kind of telling you what I think about it as well, Oscar.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Obviously, I don't think it's a good look, but it's also football and you're out there, and if you're going to put yourself out there, you're ready to go. I think that's where you come from. I would have thought it'd have been more than just a $1,000 fine. I got a $1,000 fine for pushing someone in the back to create space on the lead. Pushed someone in the back and got done for striking and got a $1,000 fine because it fell over against Freo in the derby. The umpire was standing next to me and laughed about it when the guy fell over and then got hit with a fine. So to see that instance is the same punishment as knowing that someone's got a broken hand, you're punching it, I find that doesn't sit right with me, but not sure.
That's good. I've got another one for you. This is a question without notice. I saw some coverage just today, actually, about the state of the game.
Oh.
So the Doomsdayers were out in force in 2019. I don't know if anyone can wind their mind back to that, but 2019 was the year of this is what's wrong with the game, change this rule, these rule changes have caused this, and we need to go back to how footy used to be played, right? That was 2019. Haven't seen a lot this year. There's been a bit going on for the old, this is why, you're hearing the holding the ball adjudication that started coming up now. But there was a bit of coverage from the game last night, Bulldogs Port Adelaide, where there was a photo taken with every player in front of the forward half, and I think almost all players inside the forward or back 50, which were inside a 50-metre arc. There was two pairs. So there might have been 16 players from each team inside the back 50. The comment and the coverage I saw was this photo demonstrates what is wrong with the game today. Please explain.
It's a tough one because I can see why people think this is what's wrong with the game, but also I'm not sure what time of game it was and what score it was. So context is important.
Very good question, Oscar. That is why you're on a Smarter Than Usual podcast. The time of the game was 2 minutes to go in the last quarter.
Context is always key.
With 2 goals of difference.
So what I'm hearing is people want to watch a good free-flowing game of footy up and down.
Great.
But players and coaches want to win. We want to win games of footy.
Yes.
And at times, that won't be what's the best thing to look at from a viewer's perspective. I mean, what were the scores? I was watching an old game of footy on Fox Footy, and the score was 145 to 137, and it was like a great game. If that ever happened in today's footy, both backline coaches would be sacked from either side if a game was like that. We all just want to win games of footy, and I guarantee the team that flooded all the numbers back was probably Port Adelaide.
Yes.
They won the game.
Yeah, they're trying to win.
And I bet you they're really happy about it, and they'll pull up that vision and be like, boys, this is us following our structures really well, and we got the 4 points. Let's load up and get ready to go in 4 or 5 days.
Every game's going to be different as well, and context, exactly right, is key. Like, you watch the West Coast Geelong game, I'm sure everyone agree that was one of the better games of the season. That was pretty free-flowing. But there were stages in that game where there was a lot of numbers in forward half and people were trying to slingshot. There was sections of the game where it was really stop-start, Geelong and West Coast possessing the footy, almost keepings off sort of look. And, my views on all of this is footy is how it's going to be. It's going to evolve. I don't think it's necessarily a really contested game right now. Like, there's some open flowing games of footy, and no matter how much you change the rules, no matter what you do to the game, no matter what succession plans administration have, no matter what views you have, coaches and players will always play to win, and they will find a way to win. Clubs don't care how that looks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and like you said, footy goes in swings and roundabouts. Think back to 2017 when Richmond won the flag. It was kick it down the line, a lot of pressure, small forwards, just get the ball going any way possible. It's changed a little bit since then. 2018, we played probably a possessive style of game, using our foot skills, really nice to watch.
But Richmond were also a very good team that year, and they played that way. They play their way. We play our way. There's other teams that play more defensive, get numbers behind the footy, and then try to slingshot. Like, that's how some teams play. Like, you're going to solve one problem with all this, and you're just going to get another one.
Yeah.
Like, it just is how it is.
And I dare say the best game of footy last year was against Richmond, round 22. We played them. We were up by 35 points in the first quarter.
Yep.
They came back and beat us by a goal in the wet at the MCG.
Yep.
And it was a game that was so good to watch and appealing to the eye because in the first half we played the way we wanted to play. Second half they got over the top of us and played the way they wanted to play. There's nothing wrong with playing conflicting game styles. And in the end, everyone just wants to win. And as a fan, you might think, wow, that was a really good game, but I bet you really wish your team won more than it was a free-flowing game.
Like it a lot, Oscar. Very, very good insight. Anything else happen? I mean, Mitch Cleary getting stood down from, the AFL media. That there was a lot of chat about that, and I don't really have an opinion either way. It was interesting to watch, from my point of view anyway, journalists come out in support of him. And as a player, I actually almost thought if I put everything on Twitter that I thought, then I potentially wouldn't have a job in the AFL. But I found the whole thing interesting, how almost every AFL journo, and when I say AFL, the industry, not the company, came out in support of Mitch, and that was overturned. It was interesting to watch the coverage that it got.
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything either.
Nah, I don't really have a comment on it in terms of the Mitch Cleary thing. I just think it's interesting, the effects. We didn't bring our families over, and all the Melbourne teams, because obviously they're staying in these hubs for a longer period. A lot of them have brought their families and kids over, and just the effect it has on them. And for us, we're playing and training, so we've got a purpose while we're there.
It also is our job and our responsibility to know the rules, and partners and kids are in the hubs, and it's their responsibility too. But it's not their job. They're there as a support mechanism for players.
Yeah, and we're there with a purpose to play and win games of footy. They're there with a purpose to support their partner and try and get by with any means necessary. So
it's certainly a good reminder that everyone needs to be diligent and do everything we can to keep the game going, because there's what's going on with Victoria at the moment, and we're not a political podcast, so we're not going to talk about that, but there's risks to the game of AFL. That's why all the protocols are in place. So it's not a friendly reminder. $50,000 fine is not a friendly reminder. It is a reminder that you need to know what you're meant to be doing. A little quick preview. We haven't really been speaking about who we got next week. Sometimes we don't know who we're playing, but we're playing Carlton this week. I'm going to touch on the most important part. We have a scrimmage this week. The Waffle Boys, the non-AFL guys, we've got a scrimmage against Carlton. I think they've got 15 or 16 available players, so I'm excited. I'm personally excited to play footy.
do you know how many we have? Do we have 15, 16 as well?
Yeah.
So 15, 16 decide it will be?
It's going to be great. We did the same numbers against Collingwood. I think we Collingwood threw us a player for a few quarters. It's just so much better than training. We did a training session last week where you boys played.
Yeah.
And yeah, love it. Great competition with the lads, the young lads, help them develop, but it's not a game.
No.
I'm not here to train.
I have an interesting perspective on this. I'm not sure if we have time. I might just touch on it and we can go to it in a future episode. I'll leave you a week to think on it. With younger players at the club, a fresh 18-year-old that was drafted, say next year, we've been told the same thing. There's no waffle footy. If you're not playing AFL, you're training. Scrimmages will be every couple of weeks, but no guarantee. Do you leave the younger players and send them to random waffle clubs and say, have a year of playing against men, and we'll see you in 12 months. You'll still get paid like an AFL footballer, but you won't be coming into the club. You won't be coming into meetings. And if there is a case where they need to be called up, they'll be put into 2 weeks of quarantine training on their own and then brought into the group.
Do you also opt out as a younger player? Do you also say, that's not for me? I don't see myself getting a game this year. I'm a development player. Being on an AFL list isn't the best for my development. Do you think?
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about this next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next week. But
because the draft's compromised as well. The 2020 draft is completely compromised. School footy's cancelled in Victoria. There's a lot of numbers that come out of there. TAC Cup or whatever it's called now, the Fantasy League. What is that called?
Yeah, don't know.
Yeah, that's gone. So the draft's compromised as well. It's going to be a very interesting back end of this season.
It looks like a whole year of playing footy against grown men, a weekly competition, would be really, really good for development of players that have had a whole year compromised at 18.
I don't want to hear your views. We're going to talk about it next week. We've got Carlton coming up. They've been going well, Carlton.
Yeah, they have.
Carlton.
Playing on Sunday evening. Talented team. Went down to Hawthorn last week, but looking forward to it. Hopefully, I had a check of the weather forecast. Thunderstorms for Sunday night.
Yeah, miserable weather over here in the west.
So we'll wait and see, but looking forward to the game. Should be fun as always.
Yep. Young, exciting group. Coming up, probably a more experienced group, but this year has proved that actually doesn't matter one iota. It's whoever rocks up on the game and can be consistent throughout the 4 quarters.
Exactly.